Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. So I just wanted to share something that happened. I know yesterday I was talking about setting boundaries, and in order to not be taken advantage of for your kindness, sometimes we have to let the people know in our lives that there are limits to what we will accept for ourselves, and that because of our honor and our dignity, we're not going to accept certain mistreatment. One of the other things that I mentioned was that in life, we teach the people around us how we expect to be treated by what we accept and don't accept. And if we accept things that are uncomfortable, and when we don't push back and give resistance and tell people that we don't accept this, then they understand that we do accept it, and they'll push the line even further. So I wanted to share an example of something from my life, right? So just earlier today, I decided that I was going to encourage my boundaries and sort of enforce them and make sure that someone who was doing something that was not correct in my life recognized it and understood that it wasn't going to go on any further. So I'm not going to share the details of who or what the issue at hand was. That's personal, but I do want to let you know that this particular person was violating my kindness. And I had made an offer, and I had made, I'd been very patient, and I'd been allowing for things to go on for some time until finally I realized that I was being taken advantage of and I wasn't going to have it anymore. And one of the blessings that I've been blessed by God with is that whenever I come to a realization that something needs to be done, almost within the next 12 hours, if not the next 4 hours, I decide to take action and implement it. And as I was reflecting, I was on my talk yesterday, I realized, I've got to do this in my own life too. Because it's one thing to talk the talk, and it's another thing to walk the walk. And so the situation happened. I let the person know that what was going on was not acceptable and that I wasn't going to accept it anymore. And at the beginning, I thought, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't, imply or mention what the consequences of if it doesn't change. And in that moment, I realized that, you know what? If I continue to give time and continue to be patient and continue to make excuses, then I'm not really enforcing my boundary completely. So after that initial conversation, I went back to the individual and said, listen, if this doesn't change by such and such time, this is not going to be happening anymore. And so it wasn't necessarily an ultimatum, and it wasn't a threat, but it was an enforcing of the boundary that if something doesn't change, there will be consequences. And in this particular situation, I had the ability to do so. There are times in our lives when we don't have the ability to really enforce consequences in the life of someone who's violating our principles. But our simple refusal to participate and our simple refusal to be treated that way is, in and of itself, something that we always contain the power. We always have the power to say, no, I'm not going to accept this anymore. And how that looks may be different in your circumstance. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up that came up for me as I was doing this was this fear, right? Part of the fear of not wanting to set boundaries, at least in my case, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I don't want to lose a friendship or some sort of a relationship with a person if they are not necessarily doing what it is that and treating me in a way that I wish they would. And so on the one hand, if I feel like, I want this relationship in my life, I want to have positive friends, I want to have positive relationships. If I tell them that they're mistreating me, maybe they'll leave, maybe they'll go away, maybe they'll stop being my friend. And you may think, oh, that's kind of a silly idea to have. I mean, if they're not treating you very well, why would you want them in your life at all? But it's not that simple. For a lot of us, we have attachment issues and we want to have friends, but it's a valid question, Is this person helping me in my life? Is this relationship a positive effect on me, or is it harming me? And if it's harming me and if I'm being harmed in the process, do I really want this relationship in my life? And again, there are different circumstances for different people. Sometimes we have harmful family members, children, siblings, whatever. There's a lot of things to account for. But in this particular situation, I realized that my not speaking up and me not enforcing my boundaries was an example of me letting myself, telling the world and the people in it how I wanted to be treated by the world. And it told me and it told them that I'm not worthy of better treatment. And if something happens and there becomes a disagreement and maybe some sort of an end to this relationship or this, whatever, because of me enforcing my boundaries, then that's God's way of telling me that I need to move on and just not allow such a thing to continue to happen. And if that's a harmful person in my life, then so be it. And there was another Facebook video that I'd seen recently, and it was talking about negative relationships, and it said sometimes, God doesn't need to add something into your life, but sometimes God needs to subtract something from your life in order to help you become a happier, more content person. And so with this example of clearly outlining boundaries, saying this is not okay, this is not acceptable, if this doesn't change, this is going to happen, and this is not a threat, I care about our relationship, but something needs to change because this is not working. And I have empowered myself to be able to speak that truth to the person in my life who was overstepping my boundaries. But one of the big realizations is that I have to accept responsibility for my role in allowing it to happen, and when I know better, do better. One of the things in my book, Journey to Black Belt, Lessons for Life, it's a book about martial arts principles, but it's also about how you can apply martial arts principles in the everyday battles of life. And one of the maxims is, you know better, you can do better, so do better. And then there's a smiley face at the end. And the reason is, once you know that you can do something better, you just have to take a deep breath and do it, and accept that you're able to do it. Implement the wisdom that you know. You don't need a project plan. You don't need a written thesis. You don't need the president's permission. You just have to do it. When you know that something is right in your life, take action. And that ability to take action and implement positive principles in your life will take you very, very far, especially on this long road of recovery. So with that, I wanted to pass on my peace and blessings and salutations. I don't know if you guys know, but a few days ago was Nowruz, and so there are a lot of celebrations of Nowruz, the Persian New Year, around the world. And I just want to send my peace and salutations, wish you a happy Nowruz, and peace be upon you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you.